Welcome to Talking Giants presented by DraftKings, and welcome to the New York Giants, Kadarius Toney. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. What a night for the Giants. The trade down, we could talk about the trade down for like 45 minutes, and then the Giants get a weapon in Kadarius Toney. Justin, how are you?
Bobby Skinner, I'm very excited. It was a very good night for the New York Football Giants. It was an unexpected and surprising night. I felt like every 5 minutes we were saying to ourselves, even with just how, the first, even like 6 picks went, the first 7 picks went, saying, oh, we're going to redirect and we're going to go here. We're going to redirect and we're going to go here. And then especially with the trade down, oh, we're going to major redirect and go here. And then it turns out that, I think our reaction was kind of a classic one. If you didn't see it, check out the socials, check out the live stream, check out the initial reaction clip that we put on YouTube. The noise that we made together, we're like, whoa, it was like the same tone. We like hit the same note of like, whoa. I thought it was a pretty cool night. We're going to get a Kadarius Toney. There's a part of me that is kind of more excited about the trade and the fact that we're like gaining assets.
I'm very excited for next year's draft already.
Just as excited about the trade than like Kadarius Toney, which is kind of bad, but like it was so unexpected. It's so wild. A lot of people don't like it, but we're going to get into it. Bobby Skinner, how are you?
I'm good. We are going to hit it from every angle. We're going to talk about Kadarius Toney as a player first. We're going to talk about why the Giants got him and how the Giants will use him as a player. We'll talk about how, we were kind of like looking at the board at that time. And then we'll break down the trade and everything that means for the Giants. And then we're going to give some looks at what we want in second round. So we're going to pack it full. Before that, we rarely ask for this. I don't think we've asked for this since actually, no, we asked for it when we signed Kenny Golladay. But we have only asked it once this offseason. Please leave us a 5-star rating and review on the Apple Podcast app. It is the easiest way you can support us. We want to get to 1,000. Really, when you get there, that's a big deal. This is a huge weekend for us. This is our biggest month. This is our biggest time for growth. There's a lot of brand new people listening to us for the first time, Justin. Please leave us a 5-star rating and review. I think you're going to enjoy this show. I think, what we've built here is pretty cool. So please just leave a 5-star rating review. It's the easiest thing you can do. You'll hear me ask you maybe on the next 2 episodes, but then you're probably not going to hear me ask, until the season starts. So, Justin, Kadarius Toney.
Yes.
Florida Gators wide receiver, 6 foot, 193 pounds. Was traded for the 11th overall pick, a 2022 first and fourth, and then a 5th round pick that we'll be using on Saturday. 4'4", 140 at his pro day, a 40-inch vertical jump, a 136-inch broad jump, which was like the best. It was the best, 99th percentile. This is a very interesting pick. He's not your traditional wide receiver. He's going to be a guy who lines up in the slot, and it's very interesting because going up into this draft, wide receiver talk was very relevant. But it was like, hey, you know what? If we draft someone over Darius Slayton, then we draft someone over Darius Slayton, where it might be we just drafted someone over Sterling Shepard, or at least to come in, or Sterling Shepard plays over Slayton. We'll go through all of it. But he is a very exciting player that can be used in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, I like to just get into the advanced numbers to start. Bobby, you can maybe start off with some of your... No, I actually, I have the basic numbers too. I'm taking them from you. In 2020, Kadarius Toney, he had about 70 catches, 984 yards for 14.1 yards per catch per pop, with a total of 10 touchdowns, including 19 rushing attempts, 161 rushing yards, and 1 touchdown as well. But some of the more advanced stats, Bobby, 4 touchdowns from 20 plus yards. I always like to look at big explosive plays. 4 touchdowns from 20 plus yards this past season.
A perfect passer rating on those stats, like yes. A 7 for 9 with 4 touchdowns and a 158.3 QB rating when he's targeted on 20 plus yard throws.
Yeah, and the high catch rate from 20 plus yards, it also reflects that high catch rate reflects in his work from 10 to 19 yards, and then also from 0 to 9 yards as well. Because listen to how crazy this stat is. It's more or less a coincidence, and it's it's just correlation, right? Kadarius Toney career catch rate at Florida, 80%. Bobby Skinner, What was Sterling Shepard's catch rate with Daniel Jones in 2020?
80%.
80%. So I found that to be kind of crazy, kind of wild. So Kadarius Toney advanced stats, like I said, 4 touchdowns from 20 plus yards, 20 forced missed tackles. That was best for 5th in the nation out of all wide receivers this past season at the collegiate level. 784 slot yards. That was 6th in the nation out of all those collegiate wide receivers. 70 catches, 984 yards. Like I said, 13.3 yards per catch. That's at least what PFF had. 6.8 yards after the catch per reception.
Well, and you even mentioned an 80% catch rate in the past season, where he's got his reps. He is kind of a weird prospect where he didn't have a ton of production up until this last year. He had an 83% catch rate, and then we mentioned the big plays. Just as a player, what the film shows, and he's someone I did a film breakdown on beforehand, which, by the way, me and you had a very scary realization on the stream when we traded back. It's like, oh my gosh, what if they draft someone we haven't watched yet? What if they draft Greg Newsome out of Northwestern? We were panicking, oh no, please let it be somebody we watch. But it was not Jalen Waddle's speed, but he'll burn you. He's not he's not going to be top of the league speed, but he will burn your ass. I mean, go look at the SEC championship, where he has that go ball touchdown. His route running is definitely raw, but it's kind of beautiful though too. He shows that speed, that burst off the line. He opens up a corner's hips, and bam, he's the other way. That change of direction is what makes his route running really good. Okay, he just gets your hips open, bam, I'm going the other way. And that is why he is that yak guy, because he has that agility, that stop-start, that motor. Some guys just don't have that stop-start thing. Kadarius Toney does have that. So his route running isn't perfect, but it can be worked with, and I think is pretty damn good. With that speed, with that agility, double moves are going to be dangerous with this dude. They call him his nickname is the human joystick, because you get him the open field, you get him the ball, and he makes stuff happen. I mean, there's plays where it's how did he get more? How did he get 10 more yards out of this? And he's turning that play into a touchdown. It's unreal to watch. If he might be, if you just watch a highlight film, and we don't judge a guy off a highlight film, but he has, one of the most fun highlight films in the draft. He can, play in the backfield a little bit. He's got some, do some different stuff like that. We'll talk about that more when we talk about how it works in the Giants scheme, or what we hope the scheme to be. Return ability. And, you see a guy who is, he's this small yak guy. Well, he's 6 foot, which is not short, but he's got really good contact balance. He's not simply just juke the life out of people. He's hard to bring down.
Yeah. Another stat that we forgot to bring up was 150 targets on 3 drops on 150 targets. So, for all you people, for all of us that are shell shocked and have PTSD from Evan Engram, that ought to make people feel good. But Bobby, I think most notably,
one other note on it too is I saw, well, he's not a contested catch guy. Well, it's he's a slot receiver.
Correct.
I know we've gotten used to slot receivers being contested catch guys with Golden Tate the last couple of years, but that's just not what Kadarius Toney is. So, but even then, he's got a 40-inch vertical jump, and so it's not like he doesn't have that ability.
Yeah, and really what sticks out to me the most is the speed to take the top off of a defense, right? I'm looking at this right now, and I don't want to put the expectation on Kadarius Toney to be when I talk about explosive plays, I don't want to put this expectation on him that he's going to be the most explosive player in this offense, because honestly, we look at where he caught balls on the football field, Bobby, and we look at where he ran routes, where he was I don't want to say where he was his strongest, and where he ran his most routes, and where he caught his most balls, and where he was targeted the most was over the middle of the field. And Daniel Jones, ironically enough, I mean, he thrives when he's throwing the ball over the middle of the field from 15 plus yards, air yards, that is. In 2020, Daniel Jones had a perfect passer rating inside the hash marks. So, I think Kadarius Toney, he can kind of thrive in that intermediate to sort of deep level. I'm not really going to be expecting him to catch a lot of balls over the sideline and be that contested catch king. That's where Kenny Golladay comes in. That's where Darius Slayton comes in. But really, Toney brings another just makes this offense a lot more versatile and a versatility that we need. Bobby, we need speed guys. This offense was not fast last year. Darius Slayton was the fastest part about this offense, but the only way that we really used him is, the straight line speed when it comes to those, catches on the sideline and just running those streaks on the sideline. That's the only thing we really used him for. So adding an athlete to this offense, I think it just makes it so much more versatile. So now I'm looking at this and I'm, not to just jump into Jason Garrett, but I'm looking at this and looking at this offense. I'm going to be distraught if defenses are still blitzing us at the same rate, if teams are still utilizing a single high safety when we have a lot of versatile pieces. Toney's kind of like the opposite of Galladay. Galladay is that big guy. And then now you have Shepard and Slayton can be intertwined in and out whenever we please based off of what we want to do.
And let's do that. Let's talk about him in this offense. And I think something that we've talked about as a big talking point, me and you were both people who did not want to bring Jason Garrett back for this season. But with him back, it's like, okay, what happens? How do we change the 31st ranked offense? And wide receivers, Kenny Galladay is a huge deal. Bringing back Saquon's a huge deal. But Kadarius Toney, I really think this pick signals something different than just having good players. Where until tonight, we had hope for the offense, but we were just kind of like, Kenny Galladay is going to be that traditional number one wide receiver. Kyle Rudolph is going to play that Jason Witten type tight end role, and Saquon Barkley is going to be a beast of a running back, and they'll use him in receiving games. Like we weren't expecting anything like complex, and it's not even the worst thing in the world. Like you don't need to have everything like complex. I think this pick signals something different, that we are going to be doing things different, because it's not like you don't have Saquon on this team where it's like you have this versatile player you can put in the backfield. Like that's Saquon. Saquon is, he's going to be better than Kadarius Toney, obviously. I really do think we've talked about these, adding the Russ Callaways, adding all these, these coaches. What does it mean? I really do think it means it's like, hey, this is, we're doing something different. I really believe, this was a Dave Gettleman pick. People have compared to Curtis Samuel, so it's there. But I think Joe Judge got his guy,
Yeah.
I think this was Joe Judge's guy. I think Joe Judge is thrilled that he got Kadarius Toney. They obviously traded back, which we'll talk about, and I think Devontae Smith going 10th probably had a hand in that, because we heard rumors like all day. It's like it's going to be one of the Alabama cats.
Yep.
And then all three of them went before us. So, I really do think Joe Judge got his guy, and they spent a lot of time with him down at the Senior Bowl. You even have the Nick Saban experience playing against him in the SEC championship,
which he dominated, by the way.
Yeah. I really do think Nick Saban was his ears. Like, dude, he had 8 catches, 153 yards, and a touchdown. Beginning of the game, we tried to play him in man coverage, and he burnt us for a touchdown, and then he was hitting us over the middle. So, I really do think this is Joe Judge getting his guy, and is a sign of things will be changing with this offense. Will it work? We don't know, but it's not going to be the status quo. We're just going to try and have better players in the team across from us.
I certainly hope so. You saw a little bit towards the end of the season when Freddie Kitchens took over and then Jason Garrett went back. And, we're hoping that bringing in more people will evolve the offense, because it looked like it was one that was from 10 years ago, and the offense that's not where the NFL is. So, Kadarius Toney, using him in pre-snap motion, this is a guy, Bobby, where you want to prioritize getting momentum under his belt before the snap. I mean, I think he can be fine if, he's fast enough, he's quick enough, or if you just let him go, he'll go, and he'll, maybe, hopefully he'll beat a guy over the top, or, he'll juke a guy out of his shoes. So then he'll create separation naturally on an out route. He'll create separation on a slant. He'll create separation on one of those classic Jason Garrett curl routes. Right. So, but nevertheless, like, why, if the NFL provides you like a legal way of cheating, which I say play action and pre-snap motion, particularly motion at the snap, is cheating. If they allow you to do it, you should do it. You talked about the Senior Bowl. Dan Solomon of Giants.com.
Well, let's stay on that. I think he needs to be in motion nonstop.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like Kadarius Toney, he needs to be the motion man. nonstop. Whether it's, being Kansas City cute and have him circling around the QB and the running back.
Oh yeah, I would love that.
He needs to be not only just a playmaker, a freaking huge distraction. A huge distraction to keep your ass from blitzing us, to keep you from bringing that one safety down or trying to fill every gap in the run game. He needs to be a distraction, which is going to open things up for, guess what, our two best offensive players, and Kenny Golladay and Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, and if the offensive line is going to be somewhat of a weakness, which a lot of people are mad that we didn't take Slater, right? A lot of people are mad that we just didn't stay at 11 and we didn't take Slater. A lot of people are mad that we didn't take Parsons, which we can have that defensive conversation a little bit. But if this is what you're going to go with, and you believe in the young guys in the room, which we know that we already knew before this draft that they believed in the young guys in the room, in the offensive line room. We definitely know they believe in Matt Parrott. And we know that they believe in Shane Lemieux, and we're not so sure about Will Hernandez, but definitely Matt Parrott they believe in. You have to, if this is going to be somewhat of a question mark, the offensive line that is, you need to make sure that Daniel Jones is not sacked 11 times in under 2.5 seconds, which tops the NFL. You need to make sure that that does not happen. And if that is scheming and if that is using your weapons, and it's not like we're talking about, hey, we're just going to have Golden Tate run all around pre-snap and do all these different things. What's the threat of Golden Tate? Golden Tate doesn't have that threat. You would like to think that Kadarius Toney has that threat. Bobby, I want to talk about the Senior Bowl. They had and this is just like a little point. Dan Solomon wrote this article on Giants.com. There was a late night meeting between Kadarius Toney and the Giants at the Senior Bowl. There's plexiglass between everybody. They're all wearing masks. The Giants coaching staff and the Giants front office, they were kind of describing the day as extremely tiring, extremely taxing. But Kadarius Toney brought energy to this late night meeting. And that's what caught the Giants' eye, and that's what caught their attention. He also kind of performed well at the Senior Bowl.
The Senior Bowl, I talked about Dwayne Eskridge in our wide receiver episode and then our mock draft episode. And I thought it was this guy is he won the Super Bowl because I thought he raised his stock. Kadarius Toney was probably just the best player there. You could argue maybe Mac Jones, but as the wide receivers, Kadarius Toney was the best player there. None of the tight ends were, the offensive line, that's hard. Nobody on the D line really just stood out or it's wow, this guy is dominating the offensive line. It was if you picked one guy in offense, it would have been Kadarius Toney. You pick one guy in defense, maybe Richard Grant from UCF. He was the best player at the Senior Bowl. In fact, I did 30 breakdowns. He was one of the very few where I used Senior Bowl film from, because it was just he had the silliness. Now, what happened is you saw he had this silly play and he had a drop. And then I saw people being he has drop issues. No, you just saw one play from the Senior Bowl where he literally created 20 yards of separation and then dropped it.
Yeah. 1,000 attaboys and 1 shit. What do you get remembered for? You get remembered for the shit. Bobby, a question that I have, because I watched your film breakdown, and obviously we're going to watch more as time goes on. Something that I'm concerned about. So he's not the biggest guy. He's not the smallest guy. But something that I didn't see at Florida is even when guys were relatively close to him at the line of scrimmage before the snap, let's just say at Alabama, I didn't see him go up against press a lot. Is there a concern and a worry about since how jukey he is? Because he's more or less, he relies on that jukiness and that agility off of the line of scrimmage versus polished route running, which we're hoping that, Tyke Tolbert, been a wide receiver coach for a long time for the Giants. So hopefully, this guy can develop. He developed Darius Slayton. So, hopefully we can have another guy that develops pretty well. Are we worried about, since how jukey he is at the line of scrimmage, that more physical corners can get their hands on him and kind of stop him in his tracks?
Possibly, but you're not going to have the physical corners playing nickel where he's going to be in the slot.
Right.
And he has the threat of big plays, where Sterling Shepard is a very good receiver. Sterling Shepard's not a big play threat.
No.
And it's something we've talked about is this offense needs big plays. They don't need to be methodical. They need to have big plays. And Kenny Golladay was a huge piece of that. I think Kenny Golladay makes Darius Slayton more of that threat. And now you have a guy in the slot. You arguably have 3 players at wide receiver who have that big play ability.
Yep. I love it. So that was my only on-field concern. I tried to look into this briefly. We had to put so much together before we recorded. Off the field concerns, where is this coming from?
Well, one, he is a rapper, He has his own rap thing.
That's not an off the field concern.
Other than that, I don't know. I don't know.
All right, I'm not even going to bring it up because I saw some comments and replies to tweets or YouTube comments saying something, and I'm not going to even say what it was and speculate on it because
was it because he has a nose ring?
No, it was something like
is a nose ring character concern.
I get the heebie-jeebies when we start talking about like body piercings. That's outside belly button and ear, so like nose, tongue, and especially like a little bit of like the just a stud like in the nose. But if it's like the ring, I get like
he does have that. We should, maybe we should work on getting a shirt with the guy with the nose. We'll see what we can do.
We'll see what we can do.
So we're talking about scheme and whatnot and how to use him and to be creative.
Wait.
They have to be creative.
Wait. We mentioned him as a rapper. We both listened to a few songs. That was
I listened to one song. I wasn't into it. I'm just gonna be real with you.
It's a vibe. I mean, I was listening to it at like 1:30 in the morning, and it was the energy, like it fit the moment for 1:30 in the morning, prepping for a show, getting excited. It fit the vibe. It wasn't too intense. It wasn't like I listened to some Tekashi songs. It's just like in your face. It's like bah, 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 bah. Wasn't that? It was a nice vibe. So let's see. Let's give him a shout out. Free ad. Speaking of an ad, and I lost it. I X'd out of the tab. So I forget Kadarius Toney's rap name.
You wanted me to read an ad, but I before I read an ad, I want to talk about horse racing fans. It's almost post time in Kentucky. The horses and jockeys are making their way to one of the most iconic horse racing tracks in the world for this weekend's premier race. Celebrate race day with big hats and even bigger stacks of cash by joining DraftKings free-to-play pool for your shot at $100,000 in prizes. Grab your hats, mint juleps, and head to the App Store now. DraftKings free-to-play pools are easy to play. Just download the DraftKings app, go to pools, and choose from a wide variety of free contests for opportunity to win cash prizes. Just using the word pool really just plays at my heartstrings.
Yeah, it does.
All you have to do is enter the pool and answer a handful of questions around what you think is going to happen this Saturday in Kentucky and track your results through race day. Questions will range from who will be crowned the winner, what the winning time will be, and so much more. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, and you can deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Download the DraftKings app now. I'm usually expecting it to say the top-rated DraftKings app, but they pulled that out. But it is the top-rated DraftKings app now. And use promo code JOHNBOY to enter the free horse racing pool with $100,000 in prizes up for grabs. That's promo code JOHNBOY to get a free shot at $100,000 in prizes only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. So I do want to stay on scheme. What happens with Slayton and Shepard? Now I know the bland take is like, well, they're going to all play, but someone's going to play a lot less. Okay.
That was good.
They're all going to play. Out of those three players, one of them is going to play a good amount less than the other two. And up into this draft, we're talking about, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. Like, it's okay to draft over Darius Slayton. One, Sterling Shepard after this year, he has an out. It'd be $4 million a dead cap versus a $10.5 million cap hit, and then you'd save $9 million the next year. I think this, we talked about it with our wide receiver episode, and we said, right now I would say Shepard is the better wide receiver, but I'd invest more in Sterling, Darius Slayton going forward. And I think that signals this because Kadarius Toney is going to play in the slot. And now Sterling Shepard has played in the outside, and he's done well outside. But Slayton is an outside receiver, flat out. So, and maybe Toney doesn't even start week one. We'll see. But he's definitely going to be playing. I really do think this signals, like, I would be sweating more if I'm Sterling Shepard compared to Darius Slayton.
Yeah, I would be sweating long term if I was Sterling Shepard over Darius Slayton. But I really do think Sterling Shepard just provides a vital role to this offense. I talk about explosive plays like left and right. Like, you probably get so annoyed with me and you probably think Justin is the only thing you know about football talking about how the Giants need to be more explosive. Yes, you would be correct. But really, Sterling Shepard serves the important role of kind of not being that explosive play option. His average depth of target since Daniel Jones has come in, and basically since Eli Manning has retired and Eli Manning has moved on, we moved on from him, and since Odell Beckham Jr. moved on as well, since he left, like Sterling Shepard became like a different wide receiver with being an insanely high catch rate, low depth of target, and just being like super reliable and super consistent. He's that security blanket. And I compared him to Steve Smith, and I don't think that's a bad comparison. Steve Smith, Giants, not Panthers Steve Smith. So,
I got confused. I was like, you think he's Panthers Steve Smith?
No,
Okay.
no, Giants.
The Giants
Steve
one
Smith.
is good.
Yeah.
I poo-pooed that at first, but I agree more and more.
And that role is extremely valuable, especially for Daniel Jones. He's still a relatively young quarterback, and Daniel Jones, and I would, maybe I'm wrong with this. I think I'm right. Daniel Jones has the most of his pass attempts have gone to Sterling Shepard out of any other Giants skill position player on this football team right now.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not saying Sterling Shepard is like done. At least for this
Right.
year.
And it also does depend what Toney's role is. If Toney's role is going to be like this security blanket, he had an 80% catch rate throughout his career in Florida.
I think it might be.
And like I said, he works the middle of the field. Like he's not really working the sidelines. So he's working the middle of the field. I talked about that earlier in the show, and that's like what the data shows. That's not just me, looking at the eye test. The data shows that Kadarius Toney works the middle of the field very well versus the sidelines, where he didn't really even receive a lot of targets, or very below average compared to most. So if that's going to be his role, and if that's what they envision, then yeah, Sterling Shepard, that would be tough to see a snap share go down. And he's getting paid a lot of money this year, but it all depends on how they envision Toney's role, more or less how they envision Shepard and Slayton's role. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I do think they view him in that middle of the field slot, safety blanket type thing. I do think they're like, hey, we're going to coach this guy up to not just be the big playability, but to be a really good wide receiver from the slot. We're gonna teach him up to be Julian Edelman with big playability. I really do think that's what Joe Judge looks at this is like, I'm going to turn this guy into Julian Edelman with big playability. So all right, so we've talked about who he is as a player and scheme wise. Are you ready to talk about the trade?
Yes, I'm ready to talk about the trade.
I kind of wanted to talk about this more than Kadarius Toney. This trade by Dave Gettleman, trading back to 20 from 11, so dropping down 9 spots. You had a 5th round pick for this year. So now we have a 5th round pick. How about that? We didn't have one before today. Now we do.
That was going to be a brutal, brutal stretch of just waiting. And now it's not. It's fun.
I know. But that's kind of some of the most fun times on the stream. And then a 2024th and a 2021st. We have an extra 1st round pick. We have 2 1st round picks next year. When Dave Gettleman won, finally traded down, credit to Dave Gettleman. And he said, I'm not going to get fleeced. Well, Dave Gettleman did not get fleeced. He got us an extra 1st round pick. That is beautiful. That is so smart and good to be able to pull off. And thankfully, we at the beginning, we are scared. It's like, oh my gosh, the QBs aren't going. We're not going to have the player we want there. Now Rashawn Slater was there, which it did hurt me a little because I really did want Rashawn Slater. But nonetheless, and then I was like, oh, what if Elijah Vera Tucker falls? The Jets, which was I said going into the day I thought the Jets would win the 1st round. I do think they did, adding Zach Wilson and AVT.
Yep.
But it's awesome, man. It is awesome value. It is smart football. And I know I know people won't want to give Dave Gettleman credit for it, but I don't think this is just simply Joe Judge. I really do think this is like, hey, if Dave Gettleman got offered this every year, he would probably do it every year. And especially now that we're not picking in the top 5, as a Giant GM, he's picked 2nd, 6th, and 4th. I think it's a little harder to trade down out of that when those QBs aren't there. Well, 2nd, he definitely could have traded down to the Colts. But nonetheless, him getting that extra 1st, I really do think that meant something to him. Well, it did, obviously.
Yeah. And really, a lot. We had one YouTube comment during the live stream that said, We're teams that win now don't trade their picks. Teams that win now stay where they're at and they take the best player available. Well, that's not necessarily true. How many years have the New England Patriots just garnered picks? The Baltimore Ravens are being like praised as a franchise that just garners picks, and they're not out here spending a ton of money every single offseason. And the teams that usually don't spend the most in a given offseason, not maybe not teams that spend the least, but usually the teams that win free agency, kind of like the Giants in 2016 and kind of like the Giants this year, those teams don't typically have long-term success. The teams that have long-term success are the teams that draft well. And guess what, Bobby Skinner? The NFL draft is a lottery. And the more tickets you buy, the tickets being picks, the more tickets you buy, the better chance you have of hitting and winning the jackpot, right? So if the Giants can do that, and especially buying a first round pick, you might as well be buying 100 lottery tickets, and that boosts your chances of hitting on a guy even more, especially when you can get another first round pick. So, I mean, I was almost more excited, and I hate to say this because Kadarius Toney is an exciting player. I feel like he has his question marks, and I feel like a lot of people may be a little bit disappointed in the player that we got. But consider we not only drafted and we not only got tonight Kadarius Toney, we got another player that we can call a New York Football Giant in the year 2021, but we also got 2 more draft picks that we can add next year as well. One being one that is extremely, extremely valuable in a first round pick. That is something that is worth celebrating. And I know we're in a win now mode, but I don't think that impacts like the Giants.
We're in a win now mode. We're not in a win a Super Bowl mode now. Now mode.
Right. Right.
There's a difference. There's a difference between winning now and having Super Bowl expectations right now.
Now, Bobby, imagine I'm more or less proud, not even that the Giants traded back. I'm just more or less proud of the Giants. They could have taken Kwity Paye at 11. Art Stapleton and a lot of other people, they were talking, and even Las Vegas, DraftKings. Shout out DraftKings ad. Not free ad. The betting odds for Kwity Paye were going up. They suddenly were going up. So the Giants clearly had some sort of infatuation with him. They could have just stuck to their guns, and Dave Gettleman could have stuck to his guns and said, I'm going to fall in love with the player, and I'm just going to take him at 11 like I've always done. I fall in love with the player, and I'm going to take him, and and I'm not going to listen to anybody. They didn't do it. They did not do it. And I give them all the credit in the world for it.
Yeah, and there was one there for Slater, maybe they weren't as high as him as I was, but
yeah,
there was very clear hey, protect Daniel Jones-Barry, which is that could be a critique, as hey, we still have some struggles on O-line, but there is a long draft ahead of us still.
Yep.
I am once again invested in an Ohio State QB being bad. I hate it though, because I like the Bears. You know me, I got a soft spot for the Bears. For some reason, they've kind of always been my stepbrother team. But I am rooting for the Bears to be horrible. We play them too.
Well, that game is important next year. It's very important. It's arguably the 4th most important game of the season.
And Justin Fields is going to start right away. If the Bears don't start Justin Fields right away over Andy Dalton, they're dumb.
I know
right now they're going to say that, like everyone does, but there's no way that Matt Nagy is on the hot seat and not starting Justin Fields from off rip.
Jim Nagy is a close friend of yours at the Senior Bowl.
Jim. Jim knows you. So I'm definitely rooting for that. Within the division, we had a trade.
We did.
Eagles traded up to 10, gave up a 3rd round pick with the Cowboys, which is weird, an interdivision trade. They get Devontae Smith. The Cowboys get Micah Parsons, which are 2 really great picks. I have a question. Do you think we trade down if Devontae Smith is there? Because I don't think we do. I really do think they had Smith, Waddle, and Surtain as if those guys are there, we're picking them. I really don't think that they trade down if Devontae Smith was there.
I wholeheartedly agree. 100%.
And especially, they wanted a wide receiver. They literally got one.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of got one. I hate to do this. I'm glad I didn't say it earlier in the show. They kind of got one that's the closest to Jalen Waddle, right?
With Toney,
Yeah,
I think he's a different type of player than Waddle.
I mean, the closest to him. Reach.
Who else would be close? I think Rondale Moore might be a closer type to Jalen Waddle.
Well, the funny, and this is what makes Jalen Waddle so bananas. I literally was talking about how Toney is over the middle of the field, and Rondale Moore is he has that explosive playability, but they never threw the ball to him deep down the field ever at Purdue. But Jalen Waddle, it's how bananas that scheme, and then also him as a player is that he's that slot guy, he's that small guy, and he can so go down and get the ball deep. Glad Jalen Waddle is not in our division. Devonta Smith, you know what? Here's the scouting report on him. He's too thin, and he's going to get the crap beat out of him in Philadelphia.
Oh yeah, he sucks. Total trash. 166 pounds. That's not going to work in the NFL, you dummies.
You can be Marvin Harrison all you want, but you know what? You still got Jalen Hurts throwing the football.
He's 24 years old. Of course, he's winning those routes. So I'm ready for just some Devonta Smith slander.
And I'm interested to see.
How about Micah Parsons? How does that fit with Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch?
I was just about to talk about that.
Is he really? Maybe he just plays edge.
Maybe because it's funny because Dallas is going back to a 4-3. Now, I really don't think that matters, but shout out former co-host of Bleeding Blue, Michael Bokra. He good friend of mine. He loves Jalen Smith. And we've talked about Parsons, and he's like, I don't want Parsons. I don't want Parsons. Did you just try to tell me a joke and I didn't get it?
I said I like Smith too. I think he's a very underrated player. I know he has some issues, but I like Jalen Smith.
Yeah, I mean, nobody exactly looked great under Mike Nolan's system in 2020, which I really am mad at Dallas for letting him go. I believe for continuity purposes, same reason why the Giants held on for Jason Garrett. I really feel like they should have held on to Mike Nolan, defense coordinator at Dallas last year, but that's besides the point. Dan Quinn comes in, he's going to run a little bit of a different system. So I think a lot of Dallas fans still really like Jalen Smith. I mean, a couple years ago, we were talking about Jalen Smith as an all-pro, Pro Bowl player and him possibly being cut from Dallas. And if he was cut from Dallas, not going to lie, I would have called for the Giants to try and go out and get him because he's like that. He's like that good of a football player.
Yeah.
And now it's okay, Vander Esch, Jalen Smith, and Micah Parsons. Now, I understand drafting you don't draft somebody because you're betting on somebody getting hurt, but I feel like Vander Esch has a neck injury every year. So that's what they're waiting on.
And then Washington got Jamin Davis, who I thought was rich. Justin, why don't you read the ad?
Yep. We have, speaking of reaching, what you have to do, Bobby Skinner, in order to fulfill this task is you have to reach for your Lawnmower 3.0 and shave your balls with Manscaped. First of all, I want to thank Manscaped so much because they sponsored our draft night stream. They sponsor some Bobby reaction clips. They sponsored some YouTube clips that we put out, and they sponsor the entire 3.5 hour draft stream. So thank you so much to Manscaped. You know them, you love them, you know the code because you've been listening for a long time. It's promo code Giants for 20% off. So hey, you got Bush. Not the beer. You definitely do if you haven't tried the best products from our sponsor today, Manscaped. After using these life-changing products, you're going to want to join a ballsack beauty contest. That would be disturbing. I'm going to be honest, I would not watch a ballsack beauty contest, but you would want to join it if you use Manscaped. I'm looking out for you too, because we have an exclusive 20% discount for you when you use promo code Giants at manscaped.com. Manscaped, the perfect package 3.0 kit. It comes with the Lawnmower 3.0. It comes with a lot of great products. So go check them out. Free shipping, 20% off your order. Manscaped.com, promo code Giants. Thank you, Manscaped.
So we both thought we were going Kwity Paye.
Yes.
We were very confident Kwity Paye is going to be the pick. And that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Kwity Paye is not the most exciting player in the world, but that is who we wanted. In fact, I think I put out a big board. It was Kwity Paye, JOK, Tevin Jenkins, who both are still available right now, which is crazy.
Yeah, and
Then I threw Caleb Farley in there too, since he's it's injury, but he's a really good player.
I mean, Kwity Paye was just the safe selection because if you want to talk about marrying need and Kwity Paye arguably being the number one edge rusher in the draft, marrying all those things together. Oh, also, by the way, I don't want to jump the gun, but your boy Joe Tryon is off. He's done. He was the last pick of the first round.
I don't believe in jinxes, but I jinxed that. And I was like, oh, Edge is going off the board, but Joe Tryon's still there. And literally 5 seconds later, the last pick of the draft is Joe Tryon. I totally jinxed that.
I'm taking a picture because Zach Rosenblatt is saying that he's writing an article at 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. Excuse me, not 2 p.m. So I'm going to take a picture of us recording this podcast and I'm going to reply to him.
Very nice. So, we weren't really considering wide receiver at all. Like, we literally were going through the positions. It's like, are they going to go for wide receiver here? Probably not. It's like, we're like, what are some names if they do? And we threw out Rondale Moore. Because, I do my rankings list, and I didn't have Kadarius Toney as the best one. I had De'Ami Brown and Terrace Marshall ahead of him, and then Rondale Moore. Now, Rondale Moore has injury issues, so, I can understand that being the scratch off. And those other two are very traditional outside receivers. And that's why I think this pick is interesting, because I had them all, clumped together. You had the big three, and then I had those three and Kadarius clumped together, and then I had Bateman and then Moore. People, Ravens got Bateman. I'm not a big Bateman fan. Anyways, and Bateman would have been the one wide receiver they picked that could have been realistic. I wouldn't have been happy with.
You know what's funny? You know how the Ravens keep on like adding like average to not good wide receivers, even though they always need wide receivers. So I think the fact that the Ravens took Rashad Bateman out of the guys that were on the board, I think that has to make you feel good since they're not really good at taking wide receivers.
But he could fit in their scheme well because they play against so much zone, and that's what he's going to need to play against to win. Find holes in the zone. So good for Rashad Bateman. I'm rooting for you. So that we weren't really looking at those wide receivers. Then that's why when we said at the beginning of the show, I really do think this was very like, okay, this move signals something, Whereas Terrace Marshall's 6'3" and runs a 4.39 40. I really do think this move signals something of like, hey, we want to really revamp what this offense is. We don't just want to have better players in the same scheme. I really do think this was a signal of what's to come, which is exciting. Like that's almost like 2 wins in this. You get your guy, and you get a signal that things are going to be different.
Yes. Bobby, can we get into day 2?
Day 2. So we are the 10th pick today. Or, whenever you're listening, obviously you're the 3rd round pick. Who are you targeting? I've got a list. JOK, obviously Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at Notre Dame would be very interesting. I do think Isaiah Simmons made him fall, by the way.
I don't understand that though, because JOK actually has a position.
Okay, but JOK's position is the one that they want Isaiah Simmons to play in the NFL.
What, interior linebacker? Like JOK does that.
Yeah, but JOK lines up. He's mostly lined up over tight end and outside of the box a little bit. He's not like where Isaiah Simmons was in like that star role, like behind the linebackers, like middle of safety.
I love how we went from Isaiah Simmons as like the best thing since sliced bread. He's like going to create this whole new hybrid thing. And then in a matter of 1 year where I feel like, he ended his rookie season, I think somewhat well. And now a talented player like JOK is falling. He's number one on my, he's number one. If I had to create a board, which I don't look at all these players and, there's a lot of players that I feel like the Giants would be interested in that maybe are higher on just like overall big boards, but because we're looking at specific positions and we don't need like a safety, things like that. JOK is like my number one target right now. I think he's the best player available right now, which I don't think he falls to us, but if he does, I'd love to take him.
Hey, there's 10 picks, there's 9 picks ahead of us. It would not be crazy. And I do think we'll see some wide receivers going there. Tevin Jenkins, who I think is the third best tackle in the class. That would be interesting. I know every tackle's a guard, but maybe Tevin Jenkins could play guard. That would be interesting. Landon Dickerson is there.
Yep, that's kind of what I'm hoping for.
I think that's the most. I think out of the ones where it's like we want, I think that's the most realistic one is Landon Dickerson, because Nick Saban is raving about that guy, about him to Joe Judge. It is a need. It's not are you a tackle or are you a guard? It's like, no, he's interior offensive line. Whether it's, I think he would actually play guard instead of center.
Yep,
which he has experience at. And they would leave Nick Gates at center. Other names: Joseph Asai and Ronnie Perkins, a couple edges out there. Carlos Basham is someone that's ranked up there. I need to watch him.
Is Aziz still available? Yeah.
Aziz Ojulari is there. I would be happy with Aziz at 42. I'm not the biggest Aziz fan, but you put him at 42. I would definitely be fine with that.
I mean, I love Asai, but I mean, I think Aziz Ojulari is just a much better. I think he's a better football player than Joseph Asai.
Right. What about Pat Fryermuth? Would you think about Pat Fryermuth?
Man. I would think about it. I
wouldn't do it, but I would think about it.
Oh yeah.
You got some, linebackers
Nick Bolton,
Chaz Surratt, Jabril Cox, if they fell in love with a guy like him.
Asante Samuel Jr. If they really want to go, if they were thinking about going corner at 11, and those things were weren't smoke screens. I know J.C. Horn went before 11. That was a name that was creeping up draft day. If they want to go corner and they really want to still invest in corner, then Asante Samuel Jr. maybe could be there.
How about we go wide receiver again?
No.
Just really revamp this core. Get Terrace Marshall. We got Terrace Marshall, Kadarius Toney, and Kenny Galladay. Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard. Get out. So that'd be interesting. I mean, there's a lot of talent. But I think out of all the ones, I think we both agree the realistic one that I think would be an awesome pick would be Landon Dickerson. I do think if you would have asked me at pick 29 tonight, I would have said one of those edge players. But you see the run on them. Peyton Turner went, Greg Rousseau went, Jason Oweh went. But we were thinking Jason Oweh might be the pick at 20, to be honest. And then Joe Tryon, which I jinxed, went. So I do think that may change their approach. I don't think they're a big fan of Joseph Asai at all. Ronnie Perkins could be one. And then, I think they do like Aziz Ojulari.
Yeah, I think they would too. Why wouldn't they? I mean, that's the perfect fit in terms of the versatility. It's what they're looking for.
Yeah. Well, I was right that he wasn't a first rounder,
Good for you.
Let's see. So we were very right on the order of what the wide receivers would be. I was wrong about how about the Raiders picking Alex Leatherwood?
Raiders like to be different.
They definitely do. They are not afraid. I kind of respect them for that, but now that we've had some time to look back at them, it's like you really did screw up that Cleveland Farrell pick. It wasn't just, groupthink. Like you screwed that one up.
Hey, remember when I called? I was with Bleeding Blue, but I called him the best pass rusher of that draft class, and guess what? He was the first pass rusher taken out of that draft class.
What if you call Quinn Williams a pass rusher?
No.
All right.
Tough.
That's an episode. We will be live streaming again for, the rest of the draft. We will be live streaming. So how about that? And then for a full draft recap episode will be Monday. So if you're only podcast that, so yeah, have fun with us. Follow along. It's been fun. If you haven't left a review, leave a freaking review. It's the easiest thing you can do. We appreciate you. And let's get ready for an offseason about talking about Kadarius Toney. Let's get ready for it. We appreciate you guys. See you on Monday for the podcast. See you everywhere else tomorrow. Until then, let's go Big Blue.